Alpine. Alpine. What the fromage is an Alpine? It's a French thing. The Alpine A110 here is built in homage to this thing. Also the Alpine A110, but from the 60s, when Alpine was an independent company run by a rally driver called Jean or Summit, who knocked this absolute beauty together using Renault bits. Renault bought the company in the 70s, but it's basically been dead since the mid-90s. But now it's back, and merde de fromage, that is a good thing. Because today's Alpine is a proper sports car built specifically for the very serious business of having lols behind the wheel. To that end, it's knocked up mostly from aluminium, so it weighs next to nothing, less than a Ford Fiesta. And that means it doesn't really need much power to go very, very quickly, although it does have quite a lot of that too. The result is, there's nowhere to put anything in here. Aha! You were expecting to see me like mid-corner there, weren't you? All screaming like I'm having the best time since sliced croissant, epic music, that sort of thing. The Top Gear thing, right? But this isn't Top Gear. We're a very serious website focused on very serious... Oh! This is amazing! Oh! Stop! 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 Please stop! Seriously though, this is amazing to drive, and I'll tell you exactly why in a minute. But this is a thing that you will have to buy and own, of course. And there are things that you need to know about what that experience will entail. So let's do that first. There are impractical cars, and then there's this. So there are no door pockets. The cup holder, such as it is, will barely hold one of those little hotel room milk cartons. And this is the only car that I've ever been in that has a fake glove box. True story. It looks like there's a glove box, and when you first get in you will feel around for the handle, but it's just a gap in the dashboard. Weird. And because it's mid-engine like a Porsche Cayman, it also has two boots like a Porsche Cayman, one at the front and one at the back. Although ironically, they're both about the size of a standard glove box. But hey, at least you can pay 500 quid for this little pouch here. So that's good. In conclusion, this has been designed with zero deference to practicality, but whatever, because the other thing that you need to know is that this is knocked up by hand basically in the same factory that they do the Renault sports stuff. So this is bound to feel pretty special inside at least, right? Yeah, that too. It does feel very Renault. Everything you need to know can be perfectly demonstrated by this thing. So this is the key, right? And it's ensconced in this lovely leatherette pouch with blue lining, right? But if you take it out, you discover that it's basically the same crappy Renault key card that they've been using for the last 20 odd years. The Alpine here is one of those cars that looks good ostensibly, like on a computer screen, say, but then when you're actually sat in here, it all feels a bit, well, French. Like slightly flimsy panels and crappy switchgear, and the infotainment, ugh. If you like your radio to cut out every 100 yards and your infotainment screen's baffling, then this is the radio and infotainment setup for you. That said, in very un-French style, it is ergonomically perfect, pretty much. Beautiful seats that you really sink into and proper legs out driving position. Loads of headroom despite being tiny. Basically, no matter how tall you are, unless you're an actual giant, you'll fit. J'adore. And so now, finally, we can start to talk about what is great about this car. Because if Alpine hasn't spent that much money on high quality cabin materials, that means it's been spent making this fella one of the most funnest things you will ever drive. The way this blends speed, balance, comfort and precision is just pure Bernard Matthews. What, like a turkey? No, it's not a turkey, as in beautiful, like the way Bernard Matthews used to say beautiful back in the day.
People keep telling me what a pleasant surprise they get when they carve my turkey roast. Matthew's turkey breast roast. Beautiful.
Yeah, I can see why that would be confusing. It's beautiful anyways. The sort of car that anyone of any ability can just get into and drive the shit out of and end up feeling really good about everything. including themselves. But to go a bit deeper into what makes it that way, it's really the simplicity and the ease of it all. Having the engine back there, driving the rear wheels in something this light and quick could be the recipe for trouser soiling danger. But here there's so much grip and feel that it takes a proper determined effort to unstick the thing from the road. And even if you do, it's so predictable that it doesn't really feel scary at all, even in the English summertime like this. And yet it is that without feeling artificially heavy. The steering's light and the ride's fairly supple. Interestingly, this approaches performance in almost exactly the opposite way to the last fast Renault that I drove, the Renault Sport RS 300 Renault Sport Megane RS 300 Renault Sport. So where that car has trick steering that's all twitchy and horribly hard adaptive damping, and the engine's at the front driving the front wheels, this feels altogether more natural. The suspension isn't adaptable, it's just set up really well so you don't need to adjust it. And the steering's fluid and feels natural rather than so sharp that it makes the car feel like darty and twitchy. And of course, in a more basic sense, the car's being pushed from the back, so it just feels better. And the engine, right, now I don't know how they've managed it, but they've turned a relatively small capacity inline 4-cylinder into a proper drama queen. It's really loud and it has the tonal quality of a boxer engine, so it's dead grumbly and bassy. And if you stick it in sport mode, there's a massive amount of popping and banging from the exhaust. And because it's right there, it contributes to this sense that you're like at one with this car, which is a dead cheesy thing to say, but it's also dead enjoyable. Now, I know that some people will want this to be a manual, and I get that, but honestly, this 7-speed twin clutch automatic is fantastic, right? Snappier than a Travis Barker warm-up. And yeah, it's really smooth. For me, it's the sort of gearbox you want in a car like this, so you can have both hands glued to the wheel and just concentrate on going from corner to corner. And obviously, if you really want to, big fixed paddles. See, the Alpine might approach the art of getting around a corner in the same basic fashion as a Porsche Cayman, but the way that actually manifests in the palm of your hands is quite different, very different. Everything feels much lighter, easier. If only it was a bit more practical. You see, it's a very good daily driver in the sense that it's comfortable because the driving position's excellent and the ride quality is reasonable. But the way I see it, despite that, it's still a racehorse, really. It's an expensive, occasional use luxury, and that is going to be its biggest problem, I reckon. It drives much better than a Mazda MX-5. If you're over 5.5 foot, you can actually fit into it, which is a start. And it's better than the Toyota GT86 and the Subaru version of that car. And it's arguably better than a Porsche Cayman. And before you start typing, what I mean by that is that it's easier to have more fun more of the time in this because of the way it's set up. But as a package, I'm just not sure how many people this will work for. Like, how many people really have 50 grand to spend on something that's so plainly a toy and so plainly a Renault? Like, I could tell you that it's really well equipped, because it is, and that it's very economical, because it is. 42 miles per gallon I got out of this driving from Newcastle to Peterborough, and it's pretty comfy too. But is all that stuff really enough to prize somebody and their 50 actual grand away from a Porsche Cayman? As in a thing with a Porsche badge on the front and all that entails. Or even an Audi TT, which has a vastly superior interior, its rear seats, its bigger, more usable boot, and its actual glove box. Plus, your mates will know what both of those cars are, which is a thing, especially when you're spending that much money. And there'll be a dealership less than 100 miles from your house, which is definitely not a given with an Alpine. Yeah, very sad, but probably true that this is the best sports car that nobody's gonna buy. If it's a possibility for you, honestly, try and make it work. Who wants to be the same as everybody else anyway? Thanks for watching, really appreciate your time. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Please watch our other stuff. And also sorry if I've been flitting between Alpine and Alpine, I can't help it. The syllable peen just doesn't seem a natural thing to say for me. Anyway, thanks, I'll see you soon. Bye. Right, so it is it down, right? And yet there is still loads of grip, hardly any understeer. I mean, obviously you have to take it a little bit slowly, but it just feels like so secure, you know? So predictable, proper amazing, and mostly not scary at all, even in this weather. It's a nice bit of ad-lib there, Mark. Keep that in.